My darlings, I regret to inform you that Amberlynn Reid has opened her mouth again. And in a shocking twist that absolutely no one saw coming, she is once again the victim. Beck silenced me with proof, and I am a narcissist, LMAO. It's charmingly unhinged. The title alone is like a fever dream of someone who's just discovered both TikTok drama and passive-aggressive journaling in the same week. She says Beck silenced her, as if she herself hasn't spent a decade weaponizing YouTube like war propaganda. But don't worry, this time she has proof, apparently. Proof of what? I don't know. She knows what she's doing with the I'm a narcissist in the title. She has weaponized fake self-awareness to such a degree that I'm beginning to believe she thinks calling herself a narcissist negates narcissism. If I call myself the problem first, no one else can hold me accountable. Which, incidentally, is the kind of thing a narcissist would say. I'm not expecting growth, I'm not expecting introspection, and I'm not expecting a breakthrough. I'm expecting strategic self-deprecation dressed up as humility. And the fact that she thinks people will fall for it is the true tragedy. Not her lymphedema, not her history of mukbangs past, but the fact that she's learned to turn shame into currency. I have no doubt that what we're about to see is another carousel of contradictions and claims so ludicrous they should be displayed in a museum of modern narcissism and preserved in amber. No pun intended. She gives us her usual hello, welcome to another Let's Talk video. Darling, we're not talking. You're reading the YouTube equivalent of bathroom graffiti and reacting to it like it's gospel. This isn't discourse, this is desperation dressed up as engagement. I forgot to do my eyebrows, she said. Don't come for me, even though I know you will. Imagine opening your video with a preemptive excuse and then inviting the backlash like it's part of the Patreon perks. Don't come for me. Oh, they will, darling. But not about your eyebrows. Your eyebrows are the least of your concerns. So let's look at the comments she chose to read. This is always revealing. You can tell a lot about a narcissist by which insults they spotlight. Someone says they feel sorry for her mother. Amber says she doesn't. Yes, because a mother who sat silently through a decade of mukbangs and manipulation clearly has no regrets when it comes to her daughter. I'm sure she beams with pride every time Amber uploads a video. Someone says she still looks busted as fuck, even with her filters on. Amber claps back with, I have no filter on right now, I'm just busted naturally. This is the closest thing to honesty we've ever received from her, and it still comes wrapped in snark and shame bait. It's a masterclass in pretending to take accountability while actually fishing for pity. Someone says, love you, Amberlynn. She says, I love you too. She clings to that one positive comment like it's a flotation device on the Titanic. And let's be real, her channel is sinking. Not from lack of views, mind you. No, people will always rubberneck a train wreck. But spiritually, creatively, morally, she is at the bottom of the ocean waving from the wreckage. And then the timeline of delusion arrives. She graces us with a courtroom drama that no one asked for, playing all the roles herself. The misunderstood saint, the persecuted ex, and the self-appointed legal expert. The commenter says that she opened the floodgates. And she did, repeatedly, with the glee of someone kicking open Pandora's box and then sobbing because the contents are inconvenient. But of course, rather than pause for introspection, she launches into what she calls a timeline. And I use that term loosely, because it's more like a gaslight-infused novella scribbled in the margins of a court summons. September 2022 was the Great Threatening, where she claims Beck threatened her with the law for sharing the stories. It's not wholly unjustified. She had no business telling these stories. But instead of seeing this as a boundary being set by Beck, who clearly wanted to disengage, Amber treats it like a personal attack from the FBI. She says she went quiet not out of fear, but out of respect. Amber, you couldn't define respect if you had a 500-page definition of it and a psychic medium. The respect that she is referring to is just strategic silence, a calculated pause in self-incrimination. Cut to 2024, where the vague vengeance begins. She claims that she said nothing for 2 years, except we all know she kinda did. Constant references, passive-aggressive smirks, comments loaded with just enough plausible deniability to rile up her audience like a dog whistle dipped in nostalgia and manipulation. She says she only spoke about Beck when her audience asked. Darling, the audience asks you to weigh in. They ask you what socks you're wearing, they ask you how many calories are in the air, and you ignore those things all the time. You choose to talk about this. You saw that window and flung yourself through it. And then she uses the clip where she says, share what you think is your truth. That line is so condescending that it should be etched on her headstone. It's not only vile, it's dismissive, it's undermining, and textbook emotional manipulation. It's classic Amber revealing herself. In April 2024, the green-eyed monster awakened. People were saying she was faking a relationship. Instead of ignoring it or clarifying calmly, she just weaponized the bitterness like a jealous ex. She shows clips of herself being respectful, but what she means is polished for optics. She didn't scream, she didn't cry, but she belittled, invalidated, and snidely implied, which is still just as bad. And then in January 2025, she chimed in during Beck's livestream because they were saying things that weren't true. You don't get to destroy someone else's mental health and then cry foul when they respond. That's not a defense. This is provocation. It's a trap that Amberlynn laid herself and then sobbed when she walked into it. They were just waiting for me to slip up, she cries. Well, yeah, that's what people do when they've been emotionally toyed with, manipulated publicly, and made the subject of sarcastic jabs for years. They waited for their moment, but it wasn't entirely undeserved. She's trying to rewrite history with the smugness of someone who genuinely believes that receipts are invalid if you read them in a soft voice. But we all remember. We saw it. And Beck lived it. She wants to be the composed one, the victim, the mature party. But beneath that calm facade is the same old pattern. Stir the pot, play the victim, accuse someone else of going too far, retreat into passive self-praise, and finally say, it's giving weird energy, so I'm going to move on. Yes, Amber, that energy is called accountability. You hate it. Next, we go into another cursed installment of Sipping Community. She once again gathers the snark of her audience stirred in a fountain drink and serves it lukewarm with a side of willful misinterpretation. Someone comments on her drinking Chick-fil-A in last night's live, and she responds not with insight, not with apology, but with, I love their ice. That's right, we're no longer binging, we are now ice connoisseurs. This is the Olympic-level deflection of someone who's been training in denial since birth. She says she gets a fountain drink from them almost daily. I guess if you consume a problematic thing every day, it somehow becomes a personality trait instead of a diet pattern. The calories don't count if they're ice, apparently. And of course she tacks on, sometimes I get a kale salad, as if it negates the sodium bath she's swimming in daily. You're not fooling anyone, Amber. The takeout isn't the villain. The portion distortion and selective amnesia are. And then we come to a suggestion, an actually helpful, simple idea. Why don't you go to the park and film walking laps? She begins with fake warmth. Wait, this is actually a good idea. But oh no, that moment of lucidity is fleeting. Because in the very next breath she's spiralling into, you're not here to see me improve, you're just here to be rude. The defensiveness is Olympic. We're not here for healing, we're here for performative victimhood. She could inspire people. She could engage people. But instead she assumes the worst so she can dismiss the suggestion without having to act on it. It's not about them. It's about her not wanting to do the work. You'd watch to make fun of my body, she says. No, Amber. We'd watch because we want to see you prove someone wrong for once. But of course, that requires doing something other than sitting down and weaponizing self-pity. Someone asks about her medical mystery. Did they check your heart enzymes? She responds with, yes, it was some word that starts with a T or an L, I don't remember. You went to the ER for cardiac symptoms and somehow forgot the very test that allegedly cleared your heart? Totally believable. No notes. Truly inspiring the way your memory becomes so foggy only when accountability enters the chat. But wait, it gets better. My heart is perfectly normal, she says. Perfectly normal. After years of undiagnosed conditions, ambulance visits, mystery chest pains, and blaming inflammation for everything short of global warming. So I'm beginning to think there is a small chance this story may not be exactly as she's telling it. She is a master at taking a potentially constructive moment and dousing it in delusion and Diet Coke. Instead of walking laps, she runs circles around reality. Instead of accountability, she offers quips about ice cubes and insults. This isn't content. It's camouflage. Next stop, we arrive at the Linterview, her attempt at a low-budget inside the actor's studio, except the actor has no range and the studio's a Walmart parking lot. She debunks a rumour that she's quitting YouTube, because of course she's not. Even when she says she is, she's not. Amberlynn Reid will never quit YouTube, because YouTube is the last place on earth where she is still the main character. No job interview, no doctor's office, no functional relationship will ever offer her this much unearned attention. She'd sooner quit Oxygen. She gets asked what the future of her channel looks like, and she says that she hopes the love will be louder than the hate. Darling, the hate isn't the problem. The problem is that you keep mistaking consequences for persecution. The hate that you speak of is just a chorus of people holding you accountable for a decade of manipulative behaviour, pathological lying and abandoned diets. This isn't all unjustified bullying. It's digital karma. She talks about what brings her comfort on her hard days, and she says Twinkie. Let's talk about Twinkie. That dog she conveniently trots out like a PR tool every time she needs to signal I'm nurturing. The same dog who spent more time being used as background noise than being walked. And Legos, of course. It's giving I'm quirky, just like you. You are nothing like me, Amber. And then she gets one question that she mutes. It was so offensive her jaw was on the floor. Then why mention it at all? Oh, of course, because she thrives on the implied drama. She wants us to beg to know what that question was, to speculate, to inflate her victimhood while giving us just enough to gnaw on like a dehydrated dog treat. This is manipulation veiled as modesty. If it was so abhorrent, just delete it. But no, she leaves it in, muted, to frame it and weaponize it as content. The next question is about work, and she tells us that her work ethic is hecticana and then says, just kidding. She's not kidding, she's projecting. She goes on a tangent about being on time for a job she hasn't even had in years, as if punctuality is part of her personality. But here's a newsflash for you, Amber. Being on time to not post a video, not follow a diet, and not follow through on promises still adds up to zero productivity. She says that social media is a job, and she's right, it is, but she treats it like detention. She shows up unprepared, disorganised, reactive, and self-absorbed, and then she cries when people rate her performance accordingly. She wants the income of an influencer, but she has the personality of a tumbleweed. What keeps her posting? She has to make money. And there it is. No passion, no drive, just the need to wring every penny out of a platform she doesn't even respect. This isn't work. It's grifting. She gets asked if she still plans on moving to Seattle, and she says that dream has way left. It was such a weird dream. Weird? Darling, so's an entire channel built on trauma, monetization, and passive-aggressive mukbangs, but here we are. She discards Seattle the way she discards every other goal, with a vague wave of the hand and a muttered era. Her ambitions are like TikTok trends, here for a moment and then deleted when inconvenient. She sees herself in Oklahoma for a while, but translation, I am stagnant, terrified of change, and justifying it as stability. And then comes the bingo girl love letter. It's a sweet, thoughtful message from a fan reaching out with vulnerability, excitement, and actual success. They open up about weight loss, food addiction, and wanting to connect. And what does Amber do? She pivots immediately to the I don't trust anyone monologue. It's a well-worn deflection that she uses to avoid forming meaningful connections, and avoid taking responsibility. A couple of my best friends were fans, followed immediately by, but now I can't trust a soul. So which is it? Either you're surrounded by long-time loyal subscribers turned friends, or you're constantly being betrayed. You cannot sell both narratives in the same breath. She tells us that a couple of years ago she was going to get gastric bypass surgery. She tells us about the tests, the effort, the ringer she supposedly went through. But somehow, no dates, no receipts, no documentation. Then I started getting into a breakup. Because of course all progress halts when her relationships implode. It's the Amberlynn blueprint. Set the goal, make the plan public, encounter inconvenience, cancel everything and blame someone else. And so now she doesn't want gastric bypass in her current life. Of course not. It requires structure, follow-through, accountability, and a permanent change in behaviour. Amberlynn doesn't want a tool. She wants a miracle. She wants to remain the same person while expecting different outcomes. And then we're at tea or tail, Amberlynn's 5-ring circus of half-truths, deflection, and weaponised sentimentality. It's not spilling tea. It's just a monologue of martyrdom dressed in just enough self-congratulation to make your eyes roll. Someone says that eating protein will make Amberlynn gain weight. She says, no it won't, excess calories will. And she's not wrong, but somehow the protein isn't the issue. The issue is that every food group, be it protein, carbs, or air, can become a problem when it's consumed in volumes normally reserved for livestock. She drops all this like she's educating us, as though we didn't all watch her eat an entire rotisserie chicken and still think of it as a calorie deficit. Up next is her generosity segment. Amberlynn is a narcissist and that's why she buys her mum gifts. And what follows is the most laboured TED talk on gift giving I've ever had the displeasure of enduring. It's about what it represents. I like surprising people. It makes me happy to make her happy. I took her to the casino. I didn't drive, but I paid. The more that she insists she's selfless, the more the entire ordeal starts to smell of performative charity. Amberlynn, you don't need to convince us that you love your mother. But when you list every item you bought her like it's a courtroom defense, when you twist what should be a wholesome Mother's Day into an exhaustive PR campaign, you're not disproving the narcissism, you're showcasing it. She never misses the chance to play the misunderstood victim surrounded by peasants who just don't get it. Sweetheart, if you want to be a generous daughter, be one. You don't need to make it a multi-part saga complete with receipts, backstory and bonus footage from the casino. Someone then has the gall to say that she handpicks her oracle cards. She says of course not, no, the universe would be extremely mad at her. Amberlynn, the universe is not mad at you. The universe is embarrassed for you. She tells us that she takes her oracle readings seriously. But we all know she doesn't take anything seriously, except her own reflection and whatever's in the Uber Eats bag. She says she doesn't like doing readings for other people because consent matters. Excuse me? You are the woman who made a career out of weaponizing other people's trauma without permission. You monetized breakups, medical speculation, and intimate relationships with the delicacy of a jackhammer. And you're lecturing us on spiritual consent? That is rich. You need the person's energy, she says. Amber, you haven't even figured out your own energy. You think intuition is what happens when someone posts a calorie count in your comments. This wasn't tea or tale. This was fairy tale, told by someone who wants to be seen as kind, spiritual, generous, misunderstood, all while refusing to change or grow in any way. Every single question was twisted into a chance to say, look how good I am. And if you have to say it that often, you're probably not. And just like that, we stumble face first into the final segment, Bad Choices. Or as I like to call it, Amberlynn Unfiltered, Overshare Edition. Do you like dirty talk during sex? I do. A lot. And with that, my soul left my body. Amberlynn, nobody needed that visual. The phrase, I do a lot, will now haunt my dreams like a cursed chant in a Walmart fitting room. There are some horrors from which we cannot return, and this was one of them. Would you break up with your partner if you caught them cheating? Yes, I would. Would you? Because the speed at which you hop from one doomed codependent romance to the next makes a race car look like amateur hour. You don't break up, you slide laterally into the next enabler with the emotional finesse of a wrecking ball dipped in trauma. Have you sent or received more than 10 different dick pics? Yes, unsolicited. Firstly, that is horrifying, and yes, unfortunately relatable. But the way she says it like it's a resume credential is deeply unsettling. If your partner eats food off someone's naked body, is that cheating? Yes, that's micro-cheating, she says. This is the woman who emotionally triangulated her way through half a dozen relationships, trauma-dumped her way into the next connection before the last one even cooled, and repeatedly crossed boundaries on camera. And now she's suddenly the queen of boundaries? Everyone has their own boundaries, she says. Darling, you treat boundaries the way some people treat airport security. Something to be mildly annoyed by and weaponized when it suits your narrative. Would you pose nude for an art class? Big no.
And the world heaves a collective sigh of relief.
But why? Because there wouldn't be a casino, a cheesecake factory, or an Amazon haul involved? Let's be honest. If someone offered her the $500 and some attention, we would be halfway to a membership tier called Sketchy Sketches. None of this is charming, and none of it's vulnerable. This is just a chaotic scrapbook of thirst, fake morality, and poorly filtered overshare. You want to play the game? Then don't cherry-pick the questions that let you project maturity while pretending you're scandalously relatable. You want to be honest? Try answering questions like, have you ever lied about your health for sympathy clicks? Or would you rather lose weight or lose views? That would be a real bad choices segment. But that, my darlings, concludes another episode of Amberlynn vs. Accountability, a tragedy in 5 acts. We've witnessed ice worship disguised as wellness, gift-giving warped into a narcissistic opera, consent lectures from the Queen of Manipulation, and a Q&A that managed to be both entirely hollow and all too revealing. She calls it honesty, I call it image management. So until next time, keep your boundaries high, your expectations low, and your oracle cards untainted by delusion.